Hi, I'm here with the lovely Dawn Whitten. Hi, how you doing, Dawn?
I'm well, and you?
I'm good. I'm good. Thank you so much for this. But most importantly, thank you for your exceptional breastfeeding chapter.
Oh, thank you. Congratulations on the completion of this textbook.
Hallelujah.
Incredible work. Yeah, amazing. I can't imagine the effort from your end. Enormous.
It's been an achievement on all our parts, though. But I mean, your
Mm.
chapter, let's be really, really honest, there's nothing as comprehensive as your chapter out there at the moment until now. So, I mean, what a labour of love. It's clearly your clinical passion, it's clearly your absolute expertise. And I mean, the content of the chapter definitely shows the reader that it's not just, as simple as just start breastfeeding and everything will be fine, because it is in some instances and it isn't in others. But there's
Yeah.
definitely an art to the craft of how to support people. So amazing, amazing effort. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. And yeah, it was such a privilege to be involved, and a real pleasure to just have that opportunity to kind of really dive into the breadth of that area and consider what was potentially going to be most valuable for natural medicine practitioners and where they could kind of sit in that
Mm,
support team for these women. So yeah, I
mm.
was
No,
really
it's great.
grateful for that opportunity.
No, it's great. But tell me, how did naturopathy find you originally? How did you
Oh,
get
well,
into this world?
interesting. I mean, I think probably it was bedded in from childhood because, with my father growing the medicinal herbs and kind of growing up with them around and sort of being interested, what's this one used for? What's that one used for? Yeah, but then I kind of went more kind of city ways, and then during the pregnancy of my first child, which when I was quite young, actually, I was only 18 when I was pregnant with her, I just became really interested in naturopathy, and that's when I decided I was going down that path. And I think probably because that's timing of deciding that I always sort of had this women's health interest from that beginning point, and I guess particularly interest around pregnancy and those childbearing years, because I kind of started there. That started training when I was in that chapter of my life. Yeah,
Mm.
yeah.
No, fantastic. And breastfeeding, because it's obviously such a, it's a specialty on a specialty on a specialty because it's so specific. How did you sort of end up there? Or was it just the types of people that came to see you or your own particular interest in it because, it's the elixir of life? Like, how did you sort of get there?
Yeah, yeah. um, that would definitely be a good reason for being interested. I think, again, timing really being. I mean, I had strong kind of role models growing up. Both my breastfeeding was really normalized for me growing up because both of my mother figures breastfed, to 2 to 4 years. So it's just kind of around that. And so I didn't kind of realize the challenges that other women face, and I guess the culture that kind of perhaps gets in the way of breastfeeding, until when I was pregnant with my second baby, and I just finishing off naturopathy training and went to an ABA, Australian Breastfeeding Association workshop,
Mm,
and it just kind of all came together. I was like, oh my goodness, there's like there's enormous barriers here for women, and I think that really kind of incited a passion to be part of healing that. And I think there's many people working in that area, and you can see the changes happening, but there's still so much to be done because
mm,
we're really working. I guess we're looking at probably 3 generations which have had a really rough time with breastfeeding and had a difficult time with having really poor information, like really faulty information about breastfeeding. And those are the natural, you naturally, as a mother, you naturally go to your mother for support. And if your mother was giving really like in not useful advice, then
mm,
that's going to kind of play out, so we've got this kind of break in that natural lineage where we would normally go for help. So yeah.
mm, mm. And it was interesting how so much of that content really came across, though, in your chapter, the importance of, the community and the community mindset and the importance of the lineage information. And I mean, it was weaved through your chapter so beautifully, in amongst all the science and the research and all the other stuff. So it was really enjoyable and lovely to read it. Um, what do you think is the biggest reason why there are so many complications with breastfeeding now, and how do you see the role of the naturopath within that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's that interruption of that natural lineage, that our culture around breastfeeding has been damaged. So it's no longer, you no longer are kind of immersed in that as you're growing up. You're no longer looking around and really seeing lots of that as you're, just as a child. And I think it's subtle, because we're in this, we're not even aware that that's the case, because we're just used to seeing what we see around us. So I guess there's that definitely. So I think when women are pregnant, they are naturally focused on preparing for birth, because and I feel like that's a natural kind of focus. It's normal because it's a rite of passage, and you naturally focus on that. And so, but there isn't necessarily a drive to really prepare around breastfeeding and really get connected in with that good breastfeeding support early, and get that breastfeeding education. It's like many women do choose to do that, but it's not, I'd say it's not the majority, so there's a lot of women that kind of land on the other side, with, they've given birth, and then if they're having trouble, they're not really sure where to go, and they'll often get a bunch of conflicting advice, because health professionals will, have varied levels of knowledge in that area, and they'll very often be drawing on their own experiences. So yeah. So I think that's a big part. And I guess if you don't come into kind of that chapter in your life knowing what the normals are, and then having really clear idea of what the flags are of when you might need help, it's just a very difficult terrain to navigate. So yeah, I think all those layers really sort of stack up for mothers.
And where do you see the role of the naturopath in supporting this vital part of a child's life, really?
I think we can be really a really important connection hub, I guess, to help mothers get connected with good support, like to be knowledgeable ourselves, so that we really understand breastfeeding physiology, we understand the normals. And so then when a mother's talking to us, we can help debunk some of the myths that she may have been exposed to, and also we can really just set her up to be, connecting in when she's pregnant, particularly to like peer support organisations like the Australian Breastfeeding Association and La Leche League, just being around kind of normal breastfeeding culture and other women that are breastfeeding, starting off doing that while you're pregnant, but also in those early kind of months, so that you really have that support in place, and you kind of know who you gel with, and where to get support. So helping to support that happening, I think, is one of the most important things we can do. And then just knowing ourselves what those flags are. When a mother kind of says, I've got nipple pain, we're like, oh, that is a flag. We're going to make sure that mother gets support really quickly. And knowing in our community who we're really confident in referring those women to.
Fantastic. Well, look, it's such a beautiful chapter, and it's so comprehensive but informative, emotionally supportive, and I think such a good guide and a good manual for clinicians, so that hopefully we can influence, future generations, so that we do bring it back to more normalcy. So thank you so much for your contribution.
Thank you. It's been such a privilege. I should just also mention, I do feel we have a real place with bringing the natural medicines in to support women too. But I guess, I've really focused, with your questions, I've focused on, I guess, the bigger stuff, the cultural shifts. But I also think that we have, a lot to offer in terms of the natural medicines that we can weave in at this time. Yeah,
absolutely. And that's delivered so beautifully in your chapter, and you've staged it all, and the prescriptions are just accessible and realistic and safe. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me.
And we'll absolutely look forward to seeing it coming out shortly. Thank you.
Excited to see it too.
We'll see you soon. Thanks.
See you soon. Thanks, Leah.